Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is the movie Hadestown, which is a recording of the Broadway show, recorded on the West End, but using the 5 original principal cast members that premiered the show on Broadway, which I saw. So this was a great opportunity for me to review a show that I saw years ago. I got to see the same 5 principals. All of the ensemble and the Fates were played by members of the West End Company in London. And let me just tell you right from the start, this is a great adaptation from stage to screen. This is what you need to watch if you want to do this correctly. It's so well done. It's gotten lots of praise from the critics, and I actually agree with that. So, before I get more into this, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Please comment below. Tell me your thoughts about Hadestown, the musical, and the movie version of that. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's get a discussion going, and I really appreciate your support. All right. What I knew about Hadestown was that I saw the original Broadway production with these 5 actors. And when I saw the show, I left the theater thinking, wow, that was amazing. I loved that. But I don't ever need to see it again. And I think I had the same reaction again with the movie. Again, loved it, loved every minute, just loved everything about it. I thought it was shot so well, but at the end of it I went, okay, but I don't need to see this again. And the reason for that is my taste in musical theater is I really like songs that have musical theater craft. I like Sondheim. I like songs that I can really dive into and enjoy the wordplay and the wit and the cleverness. And I like characters that have specifics and are in a specific world where I really can relate to them and feel what they're going through and laugh with them. And my issue with Hadestown is that it was written by Anaïs Mitchell, who's a folk singer-songwriter who wanted to write a musical. And I think everyone's got at least one musical in them. And this is her first musical that's been produced. It took 13 years to get to Broadway. So it's a real labor of love. She's not a theater-trained person. So when Rachel Chavkin came in, and also when dramaturg Ken Cerniglia came in, they really did a massive amount of work in shaping the show. And I looked that up to see if that were the case, but I felt it watching the show the first time. I went, wow, the director and the dramaturg really helped this songwriter, because the book, music, and lyrics are all credited to Anaïs, but watching it, I just could see the fingerprints of the director and the dramaturg on it. So, for example, when we first meet Orpheus, he comes in and he's awkward, and we know that he needs to fall in love with Eurydice. And then the question is how do you have them fall in love in a way that gets the audience to root for them? And normally in like a Rodgers and Hammerstein show, you would have a "I'm not in love" song, but the subtext is they are in love. But Anaïs has written a song instead where Eurydice is like, well, you like me, but in these hard times, how are you going to marry me? You don't have the money. And then he basically gives this poetic, philosophical idea that the wedding bands are going to be provided by the stream, and the trees will bend down to create the wedding chapel, and the wedding bed will be made from feathers that will fall from the birds. And it's all very poetic and lovely. And I think as an audience, we go, oh, okay, I can see why you would like this poetic guy. But the issue I have with the love story at the heart of this show, and there's 2 love stories. It's really 2 myths. It's Orpheus and Eurydice, and then it's also Hades and Persephone. And the issue I have with Orpheus and Eurydice is, despite this lovely song, which I think is one of the best songs in the show, I'm never really rooting for their love because I don't really believe it. In fact, the first moment they come in, Orpheus just says, I want you to come home with me. He comes on way too strong, and it's comical. And they do a thing with the narrator, played by André De Shields, who plays this wonderfully. He plays Hermes, who is the narrator of the show. And you can tell how the narrator does so much work in this show. When Orpheus meets Eurydice, she turns to Hermes and says, why should I go with this guy? And he says, because he'll make you feel like you've never felt before. She's like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And so throughout the show, I feel like we've got these lyrics and these songs that are beautiful, but they're abstract. And the narrator is the one who is keeping us on track, who's explaining to the audience why Eurydice is going with Orpheus. The narrator explains everything to us throughout. And my take on theater is I would rather show me rather than tell me. I want to see them fall in love, which we do in that song, but it's a weird relationship. And I always have an issue with Orpheus because even Hermes says he's touched. He's like this poet and he's kind of vacant, and he says he's got to write a song that's going to solve the woes of the world. And so meanwhile, Eurydice has to go out and find food and shelter so that he can write his song. He falls in love easily, but he's just such a child and so flaky that when we finally get to the end of the show, it's really not surprising what he does. Because also we as an audience, we know how the show's going to end. And because I'm not really rooting for their love, you're telling me they're in love, but I don't see two real people. I see two ideas of people. And the same thing kind of goes with Hades and Persephone. They're two ideas of a married couple who are having problems. And I know that Rachel, the director, she made Anaïs write a lot of new songs, and she worked very hard to give the audience a reason to root for these relationships and to give us an understanding of why Eurydice and Orpheus fall in love and why Hades and Persephone are falling out of love. And for the most part, she did a good job because it is there. But for me, the devil's in the details. Another confusion I have is with Orpheus is he has that moment where he tells Eurydice, I'm writing this song that'll bring back spring. And then in the next scene, we meet Persephone, who's coming back to bring back the spring. So then I was like, well, you don't have to write the song now. And then my question, did he stop writing the song? And then when she goes back to Hadestown, he's like, oh, I got to start writing the song again. So it's just a confusing thing where it's like, wait, are you really writing the song to bring the spring? Or I guess the idea is larger, that he's writing a song to heal the world. But the song is specifically about Hades. And ultimately he sings the song and it does have an effect. But that whole idea is so poetic and grand to me that I don't really follow the specifics of it. And for me, these songs, as beautiful as they are, they're not really giving me the kind of information that I want in a musical theater piece. Okay, now that I've said all that, it makes it sound like I hate this show, but I don't hate this show. I absolutely love this show. And the reason I love this show is it is so theatrical. And that's why I'm constantly singing the praises of Rachel Chavkin. Because without her, this show would still be playing in bars in West Virginia or wherever Anaïs is from. Rachel, working with Ken Cerniglia, the dramaturg, has shaped this show, and the music and everything work together in a way that it's a feast for the eyes. And I remember when I first saw this, I just left the theater going, my God, that show was sexy. Which is crazy, right? But it's so sexy. The music, it's set in Depression era, 1930s New Orleans. I mean, that's basically the vibe we get from the set design, the costumes, but it's got little touches of Greek mythology and contemporary. Like the Fates are wearing these 1920s and these little 1920s hats with the little netting over them, but they've got leather harnesses over the dresses. And when I was watching the movie, I noticed that Hermes has feathers on his cuffs of this really shiny shark skin suit. And so I love the movie and seeing those little details. But even when I saw the show on stage, I just went, everyone in this show looks so freaking hot. Eurydice with her torn up leggings, and all of the ensemble, especially when they're down working in the mines in these leather overalls with not even a tank top, but just like a strip of cloth covering their boobies, men and women. And Hades in this pinstripe suit and then wearing these silver cowboy boots and then coming with the sunglasses and then the white hair, and Persephone in this green summer dress with these puffed sleeves. everyone just looks so good. The band looks good. Oh, another thing I love is the way this is done in like a Greek amphitheater, the way the set they've created on the stage. It's a very small playing space with these stairs behind it, a little circle. I just think it's so cool because it's a nod to Greece, but then it's also in New Orleans at the same time. Rachel, set designer, named here, amazing work. Also, I felt like the stage that this was filmed in West End was smaller than the Walter Kerr, which is still a very small theater. It felt a little bit smaller, which I didn't mind. I thought it worked for this group of people who are telling a story to us. This show the total is greater than the sum of its parts. Hands down, this is the perfect example of where a director has taken all of these elements and she has created an amazing show. So I know that Rachel is credited as developing the show, and I know she gets not royalties. She does get money on all the productions of this show that are going out, I think even above and beyond what she gets as a director, which she should. And Anaïs Mitchell should thank her lucky stars that she met Rachel and that she shepherdessed her to Broadway. And you may hear a little bit of this. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of Anaïs, who is not a musical theater writer, but has had this huge, amazing success on Broadway. It feels like it's just the stars aligned. We'll see. I know I did read that she is working on some new shows, but it took 13 years for this show to come to Broadway. So I don't know if we'll ever see another show out of her. And it's just also, as someone who studied musical theater writing, it does get a little frustrating with the kind of shows that go on to Broadway now, is we don't have our Rodgers and Hammersteins anymore. We don't have our Kander and Ebbs, our Stephen Sondheims, our Bach and Harnick's. These musical theater songwriting teams who would pump out a show every year or every other year on Broadway. We don't have that anymore. I mean, even Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is the heir apparent to Stephen Sondheim, has had 2 shows on Broadway and he's working on his 3rd, but that's a stretch of how many years? It's crazy, right? Because they get some success on Broadway and then they get pulled away. I mean, look at Bobby Lopez. After Book of Mormon success, he's a Disney writer. And the shows that Bobby writes only come to the stage if they were written for a movie first. So this is a trend that I'm seeing that really concerns me about Broadway, is that it's kind of like directors are going out and finding interesting voices in clubs and bars. Lost Boys is kind of like this too, found an interesting band. And then it's the director who's saying, I'm going to shape this show. And for me, I want scores that really are good musical theater scores. I want wit. I want wordplay. I want internal rhymes. I want perfect rhymes. And I know Anaïs was quoted as saying, I read this was years ago, so I might be wrong, but she said something about perfect rhymes are part of the patriarchy. Like, we have to fight against that. And I'm like, no, because what happens for me, and this is the reason, let's get into why I see Hadestown once and I absolutely adore it and love it, but feel no need to see it again. The reason is it's a taxing show on me. Because she doesn't use perfect rhymes, I have to work harder to understand the lyrics. And I actually saw the version of the movie where they had subtitles, which was so nice because I could just read them. Because when there aren't perfect rhymes, we as a listener have to work harder to understand. One more comment I want to make about lyrics, again, about lyric craft writing. One thing that bothers me this show is that a really, really good lyricist, like Ed Cleveland, who wrote a chorus line, goes through his score and he looks at all the rhymes and he makes sure he never repeats a rhyme. And maybe that's the patriarchy, but Anaïs, I think, could take a note from that because she rhymes the same words over and over again. I'd like to go through the script and count how many times she rhymes the word though with so, no. So what happens is the cumulative effect is that the lyrics just, I'm disappointed by them because they're not witty and clever, and they do feel like they're being sung by these characters who aren't super intelligent. But if we're going to do poetry, I went in 13 years, and she rewrote a lot of songs. The craft of writing the lyrics to me is wanting in this. I just want smarter lyric writing. And of course, the movie is mic'd so wonderfully so that we can understand everything. I think it's better to see this in the theater because it is a theatrical piece, but the movie has its own positives. I love the details that we get. We get to see them walking in from the wings. We get to feel like we're part of the ensemble. And then we get to see from above, and then we get to see looking up at the characters. We're seeing these characters from perspectives that we don't normally get to see. There's one staging at the end where we see Hades' legs, and then through his legs we see Reeve Carney as Orpheus kneeling at the edge of this big pit. Just great shots that I love, and I really feel like we're just always in a perfect place for most of these shots. I do have to say, I'm curious below, in the penultimate moment, I don't want to spoil it, but everybody knows how this ends, right? But that penultimate moment, they chose a really close-up, and I don't know. I felt it was too close for that moment. I was disappointed by that moment. The biggest moment in the show, I went, oh, didn't hit as strong. Also, I think cutting to the audience, which they do just a few times, not necessary. We can hear the audience. We can also, when the camera is on stage looking out towards the audience, we still see the actors, and we realize there's a live audience. Clearly, they shot things where the audience wasn't there because the cameraman is standing on stage. But the cutting together of it is so perfect. It feels seamless. Such a well-done stage to movie. So sorry guys, it's all over the place. No notes, no thought. The reason I don't feel like I need to see it again to continue is because I have to work too much. I have to work to kind of find a reason why these characters are in love or falling out of love. I have to work hard to understand the lyrics. There are lots of ballads, especially in the second act, and it just starts to try my patience because a lot of this sexiness and costumes and everything doesn't change much. Although Rachel has a trick up her sleeve, and that's the swinging lights, which she brings in towards the end of the first act, which is just so intelligent because it gives us something new. And as we get into the second act, we start to run out of new ideas. Musically even, I feel like the song that Orpheus and Eurydice sing together, and then we get a song that Hades and Persephone sing together. Those two songs have a lot of similarities, and I don't know, they call each other lover. They've got the same kind of pace with the verses that lead into the choruses. Let me talk about verses and choruses. Also, I feel like a lot of the verses, meaning, the choruses that the main part, wait for me, I'm coming, or the la 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 la, all of the, sorry, that's not even close to the melody, but a lot of the main melodic hooks, I think are brilliant and so good, and that's what really makes people love these songs. But the verses that lead into those hooks sound very similar to me throughout the show. So as we get into the second act, I just start to feel like I'm hearing the same music. And look, as a writer, this is something I struggled with as well, is when you're writing in a period style, to not have everything start to sound the same. You start to run out of ideas of like, what's another Depression era combined with kind of a gritty, more indie sound, but how can I make this have a different drive and a different rhythm and a different beat and a different tempo? And as we get into the second act, it starts to sound the same to me. We get another ballad from Eurydice right at the top of Act 2, and it just feels to be repeating material. Also, we get another song from Persephone where she says, "What's my name?" which she sang earlier when she was introduced, and they went Persephone, and now she's like, "What's my name?" It's the queen of the underworld. And I'm sure those two songs are conversing with each other in that regard. But for me, I just felt like we already know your name. We know who you are. We know you're the lady of the underground. So as we go into the second act, a lot of the songs are feeling like they're repeating things that we already did in the first act. Also, we know how the show's going to end. And so when Orpheus is leading Eurydice out of the underworld, Hades he said he can't look back, but he's never said he can't go, "Hey, Eurydice, you still there?" "Yeah, I'm there, babe." So they're like singing to each other, and she's singing "Listen to Me." And I'm kind of going, this is all poetic because he can't really hear her. I guess they're really walking in silence. And that's a rule that wasn't said, because for him to say you have to walk in silence and then to have them sing would probably pull the audience in a weird direction. So I understand the reasoning for everything, but the show is so poetic to me. The underworld is It's, this is set kind of in Depression era, but it does feel a little post-apocalyptic at times. It definitely has some modern feel to it. And I do love that juxtaposition, both musically and visually. But as far as talking about specifics, I never really understand what the train is, what the wall is. They keep talking about a wall and how the wall has ears and there's a crack in the wall. They talk about he's creating, this is when it gets modern. He talks about the lights, when he talks about how he's lit up everything. It sounded very modern. But my question is just like, what is Hadestown? Does Eurydice actually die, or does she just sign a contract that says she's going to work and be a slave, basically, in the slave colony? Who are these workers there? They beat Orpheus up at one point because Hades is like, take care of him. But then they do a 180. He starts singing about how things could be better. And they're like, yeah, that's right. Okay, we're on his side now. So there's a lot of just big swings. And to enjoy this show, which is what I did the first time, and I knew to do this time, is you have to just say this is poetry. I've come to see a very poetic show based on a Greek myth, performed by some really great performers. And there's humor in this show, which it's a Greek tragedy, but the humor, a lot of it really is coming from the director allowing the actors to really play. Amber Gray has a lot of physical comic moments. Same with Patrick Page with his gravelly voice. André De Shields just brings such lightness and joy to that character. They bring a lot of humor. And it's not always written in there. It's just, you can tell it was developed with these actors. Again, Rachel's hand in this. Also, this is a show that has to be on mics because the way the songs are written, Hades is singing so gravelly and low that there's no way you'd be able to project that. Even though he's a trained Shakespearean actor, Patrick Page, you just can't project those kind of low notes. So I noticed, in the movie, the mic is right there. Even Patrick has an earpiece, which I think makes sense because when you're singing those low notes, you got to hear them. Otherwise, your pitch is going to go, and his pitch does something to go a little astray. But so just really constantly reminded by how this music was developed, that this really was a indie song done in a bar with microphones. But I've said all the things I don't like about it. Have I said the things I like about it? Yeah, I said how it all works together. I'm not emotionally invested in the characters, but I'm emotionally invested into just the experience of the whole thing. And it's brilliant the way Anaïs has really said, Hermes tells us at the beginning that we're going to tell you a story and it's a sad story. And then at the end, it's basically, it reminded me of Once on This Island, why we tell the story. And it's like maybe the next time it will end differently. And it's this idea of why we tell stories as humans. We look at the problems with the world and hopefully it will help us to make it better. And I think in troubling times, like we're always in, but especially now, it is important to remember this. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching this off the cuff, my thoughts about Hadestown. I know I had tons of criticisms, but I actually love this show and I think the movie is great and I think the play is great. And if you haven't seen it, go see it at least once. And then there's plenty of people who really wear their hearts on their sleeves and really can invest in these characters. I'm not that kind of person, but for those of you who just love love and love the idea of love, I think this will really speak to you and you'll want to go back again and again to enjoy these beautiful songs sung by these beautiful people, these sexy, sexy people. All right, thank you for watching. I hope when you see Hadestown on Broadway or the movie, you will not be bored or confused. And bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me.